Yeah, welcome back to the Naija Filmmaker, a podcast for us to talk about Nigerian filmmakers, their films, and how it can build a diverse and functional industry. I'm your host, Selegot. On this episode, my guest is Jeremy Mbu. He's a director and producer. He has also worked in the art department on several international productions. We talk about his move to Nigeria to make films, spiritual fiction, and his latest projects. If you're a new listener, you're welcome and I hope you enjoy. Hi Jeremy, you're welcome to the Naija Filmmaker.
Hi, Sele.
How are you doing?
I'm alright.
Okay, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jeremy Mbu, and I work in the film industry.
Okay, what do you do in the film industry?
Between working in the art departments, producing, and now going into making my first film.
Okay. Alright, so can you tell us about how you started in filmmaking?
My introduction to filmmaking was through an advert. Yeah, I was in university studying advertising, then knew I wanted to move into filmmaking. So I just saw a advert looking to be a PA for a feature-length film. And so that was my first move into the film space. And then from there, I left the program I was in, made a short film, and then used that to transfer to a film school, the School of Visual Arts in New York. And yeah, that was the start.
Okay, so what did you do at the School of Visual Arts?
So, School of Visual Arts in the film program, the first year, it's sort of like a very general course, and then after that you specialize in whichever field you want to go into. So I was specializing in cinematography, but I realized that you learn more. Well, I had learned more from being on set than in classrooms, and they sort of encouraged that attitude as well. But as a international student, it was very difficult to get onto film sets legally. So even though I was getting the opportunities to, PA here, assist the grip department here, every time it would come to actually getting the job, I wasn't able to get it because of an international student. They make the restrictions on your work very, strict. So after like a year in that school, I moved to London, where I was able to work legally. Then went to London and then started working in a production company. Production house called Alva Studios, and I was there for 2 years.
Okay, so for this your course in New York, was it mostly theoretical or the practical bits of it?
The class was really very practical, which I really enjoyed. They really focused on teaching you how to teach yourself. And I still feel, even though I was only there for a year, it was by far the most useful year I've had in school. It was because of this school that it was a professor that told me that I should leave, because they understood that you learn more from being on set, not from reading a book. So in that school, there was sort of this attitude that the real graduation is if you're able to drop out of school because you already have, a job lined up, or you have this lined up. So it was very, very practical. So the first year was just learning the foundations. You're making, all your assignments were always either a short film or either an experiment, make a film with no dialogue, just so you're learning about the visual language. I really appreciated the foundational exercises that they had.
Okay, and how do you say, like, doing these exercises help your general understanding of film?
They definitely do, because you think of all the different ways you're able to communicate. So yeah, for example, one of the assignments was make a film without any dialogue. So all your and when you have things taken away, you sort of have to be more creative within the smaller sets of coloring tools you're giving. So it's like Charlie Chaplin, So during that assignment, people we were watching a lot of Charlie Chaplin and older Hollywood, and just seeing how much visual communication you can do through body language, through cinematography, through moving the camera. So I felt it was very helpful, in like the way a blind person, has better hearing than most people. So it was really those sort of exercises where you're not trying to make a film. You're not trying to rush to make a film to, show it to people or to upload it here or to submit it here. You're just practicing. And I really value just that, doing things for the sake of practicing and getting better, not always trying to make a finished product.
Okay. So you said you moved to London. So were you just like working on film sets, or you were doing other things?
So when I moved to London, I enrolled back into a film program, but it was more theoretical at SOAS. Whilst doing that, my main weekly thing was working in a production house that was pretty much just two massive empty studios that various clients would come in to either use it for films, use it for commercials, use it for photo shoots. So I was working there, assisting it was quite flexible. You'd either assist the art department, or you'd assist the light department, or you'd assist whoever the client was. You would just be able to fill in and help where you can. And through there, I was able to meet a lot of people, and from there I would then branch out from working in the mainly art department, because that's just where that's just sort of where I was enjoying at the time. So from working in the studios, branching out to doing helping with the art departments, from theater to fashion films to commercials, and then some small indie films. So yeah, I was just balancing my time between that studio job, school, and then the one-off gigs here and there.
Okay, so what was the most exciting project you worked on when you were interning at that studio?
Okay, well, I would say a commercial for Virgin, the airplane company. So it was just getting the opportunity to build, or work on a team as you're building the makeshift, not an airplane, but you're just building the window view. And so being able to work it was quite comfortable. We're inside a nice air conditioned studio for 18 hours, but it was really great to be able to work 18-hour days with a great team. And once you're very plugged in, and the team has a good camaraderie, it makes the time go by much faster. So it makes 18 hours not seem so grueling. But then after that project was done, getting to see that commercial right next to my house, getting to see the final product right next to my house, was really quite rewarding, just to see the whole, what it takes to, you see the billboard, but you don't see the 50 hours that go into making the commercial behind the billboard.
Okay, so this is a video commercial? Or?
No, this one was they took videos and they took stills as well. So I saw it was in the billboard that I saw the final product. I never actually saw the video of it, but they took stills, they took video as well.
Okay, and was this a soundstage or just a studio?
Just a studio, because all the sound was a voiceover and mainly music dubbed, so it wasn't a soundstage. Okay. It was just a big white cove, and then after every client, we'd have to spend a bunch of hours, a whole night pretty much, repainting the whole cove, each time after every client. Yeah.
You talked about working in the art department. Can you run us through what that entails?
Okay, so there's different types. So let's take, if it's a commercial, so let's take this another Christmas commercial that for the lingerie line. Was it Coco Demure? We were trying to do, it was like a 12 days of Christmas thing, so we had to build a dining room set with the Christmas feast there. So it started with building flats, which are, instead of building a whole room or renting a room in a house, you would just build 3 walls out of a wood, paint the walls whatever color you want, and then stand them up and have them stand behind, have them stable. So it's 3 walls, and that would be 4 walls, because you have the 3 walls standing, and then you have the 1 wall that creates the floor.
Okay.
That you put underneath, and that way you can have, the walls aren't all the way high, so you can have lights coming from outside the 3 walls shining into the room. So that was there. Then that was one half of it. The other half of it would be the props and the set decor. So that would be renting the chairs, renting the furniture, the carpets, the chandeliers. That was always kind of dangerous. The lamps, all the practical stuff. So that was going to prop houses, occasionally asking for some certain people if it's a very specific thing you're after. And then, yeah, those are mainly the 2 aspects of the art department that I worked in. But these were like teams of, I would say, between 5 to 10 people. So you were never doing everything. Everything was all delegated out. So you'd only be doing one thing.
Okay.
And then it's to be on, this is all the days leading up to the shoot. And then on the actual day, you just have to be on hand, sort of like the people who catch the tennis balls in the tennis game. Like, whilst the director's there, you have to be ready to, like, he'll just yell, oh, the chair needs to be moved to the back. So you'd run on the set, move the chair, run off, wait for the next thing. Oh, the lamp, the color on the lamp is too dark. So you have to run, take off the lamp, move it, get another one. So, yeah, those are between the pre-production and then being on hands during the actual shooting to move things around.
Okay. So what can you say about your general demeanor on set, like with the discipline, with how you had to kind of comport yourself?
Yeah, because there's no set guide. You sort of know what you're within a department. You have to be able to see where things need to be, what needs to be looked after, what needs to be taken care of, because there's no one that's going to be telling you what you have to do. But you see that, like, if you're just standing around, like, you should never just be standing still unless the camera is rolling, because there's always something that needs to be done. So it was just sort of to figure out, like, if you're in the art department and you're watching a set, you're always looking at the sets to make sure that everything is in line. Or if they're in between shots, you see that one of the grapes in the bowl is spoiled, so you have to remove that grape. So it's always just keeping your mind active and knowing that you're responsible for these certain things. And so, yeah, working in a studio was it was definitely a privilege, but it's very different than working on a film set, independent set, which is where you're in, usually it's like someone's house or you're outside. In a studio, it's a very restricted, confined area, so it's much easier to work because you can just focus on your one thing. And working under somebody who is able to delegate tasks out, so you know that you're responsible for 1 or 2 things, and just being able to help out and other people's tasks when necessary.
Yeah. So can you talk about the time that you worked on independent films?
Yeah, so I wish I could remember the name of this film, but anyway, so it was a period piece about Jamaican. It was set in 1960s London, about Jamaicans it was the Windrush generation. So it was about the first generation of Jamaicans who came not the first, but one of the generations of Jamaicans that came to London, and about sort of like the racism they felt. And the story was pretty much a husband comes to Jamaica, comes to London. he's been there for a while. Then his wife is coming over after him, and just about his expectations and how they dealt with that. So that was, we rented a old block, an old apartment block in London, and well, in the outskirts of London, and it was getting all the wallpaper, getting the right wallpaper. So that one was doing a lot of research, which I enjoyed because it's my favorite aspect. So doing a lot of research, getting the right wallpapers, getting the right carpets, getting the right costumes. It was a bit easier. Well, it's quite easier in London because there was a strong vintage culture. So getting the right pieces for that. Building the studios. Building the rooms. Like one aspect of the art department was when we were trying to shoot, one of the beds was too low, so we had to figure out how to raise the bed in like 10 minutes. So just being able to be, that's on hands all the time, and being able to think quickly and make quick solutions to problems that could be very expensive or very cheap if you're able to, if you're able to think fast on your feet. Because like with the bed, for example, it could have been, oh, the bed's too short, we need another bed. Or it could have been, or what we ended up using is obviously just putting apple boxes underneath the bed so that we could raise it.
Okay. You talked about working on a Netflix production. How was that for you?
So that was, the show was called The Characters. It was a episodical sketch comedy show. So every episode was a different skit. So in the art department, that was a lot of work because it was building, a lot of different sets that would only be used once. So that was probably the biggest production that I've worked on. So in that one, I was mainly responsible for creating graphics. So for example, one of the skits was set into was a concert. So I had to create all the graphics that would go on the wall as the audience walked through the concert hall, and that was an interesting experience because you learn how much they pay attention to every single detail. Like there's no blank walls. If there's a wall, there should be something on it to show the audience where they are. And yeah, that one was mainly, and initially it was like 2 months of pre-production, then 1 month on set, but that was mainly preparing all the graphics and then handing them off to the set decorator. So that one was mainly off set, not on set. But it was just interesting to see not even the full mechanism of it, because mine was just within the art department of like 25 people.
Yeah. Okay, so you were doing this and you were also like in school part-time.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about the course you're studying?
Yeah, so the Netflix one, when I was doing the Netflix one, that was and I got that through the school, that was during the summer in between years. So the school in New York, School of Visual Arts, is very practical. And I went to London. It was in this program in SOAS, it's called Global Screen Arts. And it was very theoretical, which I enjoyed to an extent. It was sort of analyzing politics through the lens of cinema. So, for example, looking at the Rwandan genocide and Hotel Rwanda and sometime in April. So it was just researching about, the Hutus and the Tutsis and their whole colonial history and the history before that, and then coming back to seeing how all those things manifest themselves in cinema. And that's sort of where it piqued my interest in mainly Iranian cinema, and like Kiarostami, who's like A Taste of Cherry, and Malcolm, and just analyzing cultures, or not analyzing, but being able to look at cultures through their cinema and through their politics, and seeing how some films from a particular era speak, a lot about the current times that they were made in.
Okay, so I guess you've watched a lot of Nigerian movies.
Absolutely not. I've watched very few Nigerian movies.
How many do you think?
Definitely not. I haven't finished more than 10.
So, since you in school, you were able to analyze like cultures and I guess their politics through the
Yeah.
movies. From what you've seen of Nigeria, what have you learned?
Well, to be honest, we had a course, not a course, but within the course, we were talking about Nollywood, and I opted out for it because I was more personally. I'd rather like speak about movies from Senegal because that was sort of my um, director Usman Sembène, and like watching his films, a particular film called Hala, which is sort of about a minister, so someone in the political elites experiencing erectile dysfunction and just analyzing Senegalese culture and at the time their post-colonial history. I didn't focus on Nigeria because, to be honest, I am not really. I was trying to become more comfortable with the Nollywood style of filmmaking, but I just found the production value quite off-putting, so I didn't really want. I wasn't gonna accept something that I'd watch in a Nollywood movie that I wouldn't accept coming from any other country just because Nigeria is my country. So I didn't really focus on Nigeria because I didn't find the movies. Even though I found the people interest, I mean, the lived Nigerian experience is way more interesting than I felt the movies were portraying. So I just didn't really focus on Nigeria.
Okay. I mean, you are doing these things in London, making some headway,
Mm.
and then you came to Nigeria. How did you get there? How did you make that decision?
Um, well, eventually I feel like with moving back to Nigeria, the more time you spend outside, the harder it is to move back and to adjust. And I knew that at the end of the day, I wanted to make films about Nigerians, and it just after a certain point, it just makes more sense to jump in the pool instead of reading books about swimming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came back to visit for a bit, and then when I came back to visit, I just decided that I would stay.
Okay. How is that going?
So far, so good. The one thing I learned from other people who had tried before is, if you can, don't move to Lagos, because, I mean, not if because well, I grew up in Lagos, but I don't like it at all. Um, coming to Abuja, I saw, oh, this is a calm place comparatively to Lagos that I'd be able to live and function. So yeah, I think if I had gone to Lagos, I would have left by now. But I live coming to Abuja has been so far quite good. So it's just been trying to adapt to the industry here. Because take for example with art departments, every single country has their own ecosystem of how they worked. Uh, in New York, you have very specific prop houses. If you want to find a 19th century uh, musket or not musket, revolver, you can find it. London has their own prop houses, so it's just sort of adapting to the Nigerian filmmaking industry, not style, but filmmaking production here, which is well a learning process.
Okay. Yeah, when you got back to Nigeria, like within the film industry, what culture shocks did you experience?
The speed, yeah, the speed of which things are created, um, was I wouldn't call it quite a shock, but it was shocking. Um, the speed and the amount. I mean, every film that you expect something to go wrong, and so you just have to learn to adapt. But allowing things, you just have to have sort of faith and chance after a certain point, because things out of your control will go wrong, and that aspect is amplified quite extremely in Nigeria. So just sort of not leaving things to chance, but allowing room for, you can't plan perfectly, so it's just sort of letting go of that sense of control to an extent. Yeah.
Okay. Moving back to Nigeria, you didn't see the same, I guess, efforts in the art department. So this meant you had to, I don't know, would I say adjust or kind of grow into something else?
Yeah.
So what do you now do in the film industry?
So that from there I was moving into producing, which I hadn't. I mean, which I hadn't done before, but from being on any set, you're just observing other people as well. So just trying to bring a bit of just trying to produce. So started off with smaller films, still doing like independent films, and so from here I've mainly been trying to produce for other people.
And how is producing in Nigeria?
Well, I would say producing in Abuja, because I know it's very different in Lagos. I'm still experiencing it. I'm still trying to learn more and slowly scale up. But as of now, I played it very safe, trying to produce in locations that I know that I have control over, so that you have maximum freedom. So with producing in houses that I know that I'll have, no one's gonna kick me out in 5 hours. No one's gonna call the police on me. No one's going to come and harass the crew. So as of now, I've just been trying to stick to locations and atmospheres where there won't be much. There will be as little as outside disturbances as possible.
Nigeria, you have your plan, you have your story, and you kind of have an idea of how you want to execute it. But because of, I guess, would I say, the infancy of the industry and this, like, much of the support not being there, you always have to adjust your plans. Do you feel that's an obstacle, or it helps you become more creative?
Yeah, I think I like the idea of, I like the parameters forcing you to be more creative within what you can do. So, for example, I'm currently in the pre-production stage of my own first film that I'm producing for myself.
Is it a short or feature?
We're looking between 45 minutes to 60 minutes, so it's a long short and a short feature. But because the rental equipments for cranes and jibs and dollies aren't there, I'm seeing that as an opportunity to focus the film more on blocking, and instead of having the camera moving, having the actors within the frame move around. So for that, I've been watching a lot of old Ozu films and Orson Welles, and just trying to study the blocking and movement of actors, not the camera. So I think there's a lot of parameters working within Nigeria, and you can either stay and complain about them forever, because you could, or just try to find a way to make it work, or try to find a avenue within the blocked way. So that's sort of how I'm trying to approach the parameters that I faced.
Yeah, what have you learned from learning how to block? Was something interesting you've learned?
Well, for one, it's really it's a choreography, and there's just a lot of ways that you can, with people's bodies, that they can talk without, I don't know how accurate it is, but the, statistic that 70% of our communication is through body language, not through verbally. So just realizing that, trying to be as intentional as possible with everything. So if somebody's body is big in the frame, there's a reason for it, and just trying to be, yeah, just trying to be as intentional as possible and seeing it sort of as like a dance. That's really the thing that I've been trying to see more, is just seeing things as a dance, the way bodies are coming in and out, and seeing the way bodies flow, as in if yeah, seeing the way bodies just interact with each other as they're moving around, and seeing how that moves the narrative forward. And so yeah, just trying to make sure that every movement is reflective to the story.
Okay. As a director, who would you say forms like a large influence on the way you're thinking of working?
So I really don't know how to pronounce his name well, but he's a Taiwanese director. I believe it's Ho Hao Xian, something along the lines of that. But there's this, every time I watch one of his movies, it fills me with this sense of stillness afterwards. And so just really, it's not, high drama. It's very calm, very slow. So him, also Edward Yang, who else? Kurosawa for the blocking. And then my all-time favorite is Alejandro Jodorowsky, just for the type of films that he's been able to create. And I'm sure there's 100 more that I'm missing out that I'll remember as soon as I leave. But as of now, yeah. Who else? Yeah.
Okay, and what kind of stories do you want to tell?
Well, what I'm trying to, and it will be probably a process that will last forever, is about, I strongly believe that the lived experience of Nigerians is really, really more dramatic, more fascinating, and more otherworldly than most movies could ever portray. So stories that also highlight the border between the like physical realm and the spiritual realm, however you want to define it, is very thin in Nigeria. And just trying to, I would say, spiritual fiction. That's the genre.
So not sci-fi, but
not sci-fi,
spiritual.
but spiritual fiction. Yeah. But it's a long road ahead. But I'm excited for it.
Okay. Do you have a date of when you are looking to go into production for your film?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks of June, first week of August. So
July?
Sorry, of July, not June. Yeah, but I'm trying to take it slow in that I'm not trying to. The film is not very dramatic. It's quite much of it's a character study in a sense. So trying to allow a lot of room for experimentation and allowing the actors to live with the characters. Because one thing I've seen is that in trying to, and obviously there's financial reasons and everything, but trying to cram a whole film into 3 days or 4 days of shooting, you end up rushing a lot of things. And I get you're trying to get to the end of you have all these scenes you have to shoot, but at what cost? Because if you spent 2 more hours with the actors being able to rehearse the scene more, then it would have come out better. So I'm just trying to practice a slower pace in filmmaking.
Okay, let's go back a bit to the art department and prop houses.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something you think we really need in Nigeria?
Well, really need is a strong a strong word, but eventually, I would think, I think they're quite helpful. If not, you're renting or just buying things all the time, and it's very expensive. And I think it would allow for more room for people to, because, for example, if you're trying to furnish house, but actually, it's not every country has to adapt for their own to their own ecosystem. Like Nigeria, I feel has a lot more carpenters than, let's say, London or New York has. So you definitely can't just take verbatim the New York uh, production ecosystem and then throw it into Nigeria. It has to develop. A Nigerian one will have to um, develop on its own. So yeah, I feel like, especially with Nigerians, we can create a lot more. Like, for example, if you want a specific table, there's very many talented carpenters that you can get that would be able to make the table for you. It's just that it'd be really expensive since you have to buy it instead of renting it. So I think eventually I mean, there is a gap for it, but eventually it'll be filled.
Let's say you're stuck on a desert island,
Hmm.
and you have to choose one film or one series that you are happy to keep watching over and over again.
And over again. I'm stuck on a desert island. Ooh. Huh. Well, obviously you'd want a series because you're stuck, but that being said, I think I would have to go with um three this movie called Three Times.
Okay.
But that's called it's currently my favorite movie. Um, but yeah,
Who
Three
directed
Times.
it?
Uh, How Hosen. Well, I'm sure I'm pronouncing the
Same
name
guy.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's called Three Times from 2005, I believe. It's yeah, that would be my choice.
Okay. Nollywood has a long way to go. Um, for you, what do you feel we should be focusing on trying to find a solution for? Filmmaking anywhere in the world is borderline kind of like an abusive relationship.
Definitely.
Nigeria is a different story.
Yeah.
How can we make our lives easier?
It's difficult. Yeah, I can't really speak on behalf of the rest of the industry because I don't know what their. I don't know if our desires align.
But from what
But
you have noticed,
from what I've noticed, I think in just trying to, I would just probably say better stories closer to the reality of the lived Nigerian, just because I yeah, at a certain point, I mean, if you see film as entertainment, but I think film could also be therapeutic, and in that can be more helpful to people's lives. So I think in just yeah, giving the stories more respect, and yeah, just sort of telling different stories. Not different stories, but uh,
kind of more grounded stories. Let's say,
yeah,
currently the films are not being true to the vast majority of the country.
yeah, that's just yeah.
Yeah. So you said you made the short film sometime. Is there somewhere we can watch it?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Um, yeah, like I said earlier, I think a lot of I see it now as practice. There's making films for an audience. There's making films because you're trying to practice, and I've made several, and I see them as practicing. I don't think everything. There's too much information in the world, so I don't see the point in adding, or if I'm going to add something, it's going to be intentional, not
And
just
different.
ideally, but yeah, not just because. So yeah, you can't watch it.
Let's just go back a bit. Like, what do you feel? What do you feel about celebrating culture through the arts? So it could be through film, through music. What do you think that does to people?
I think it can create a sense of a sense of cohesion and like collective belonging, and it can speak to a collective unconsciousness that is maybe felt between, a lot of different people, but until it's been materialized in, a film or a song, that's how it's able to rise to the surface and allows people to feel connected to one another. And I think at the end of the day, that's the point of culture in any way, is to solidify the bond amongst a group of people. And it can also be therapeutic, can also help, at least, well, to be honest, to speak for myself, part of my interest in art has always been trying to make people more comfortable with, well, not make people more comfortable, but make people comfortable with death. I know it sounds dark, but it's the one thing that unifies every human being, is that everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
And I've just found how for me, that there's this one film, it's called Blue, by Derek Jarman. He's a British filmmaker that is probably the singly most, to me, important thing I've ever seen, or impactful thing. And it was pretty much this diary of a man dying of AIDS, and you're reading his diary notes, and it's a beautiful soundtrack, and the whole movie is just a blue screen, but it just it allows for a sense of self-reflection that is necessary, well, not necessary, but helpful in life. So yeah, culture can be very therapeutic and helping you through getting us through this weird thing called life.
Yeah, and I think it will be particularly useful for us Nigerians, because even within our culture, like, a lot of cracks are showing up.
A lot, yeah, a lot of cracks. And so how we are, well, who knows where this country will be in in 5 years, but I don't really not that I don't believe that art can change the world per se. Like, I think that's sort of a self-deception.
Yeah.
But on an individual level, all it can do is impact people. Or, the best movie will just make you, or the most movie will just give you a moment of self-reflection, and it only happens on an individual level. It's not going to create some grand change, but all you do is the little bit you can.
Yeah. Okay, so where can people kind of keep up with your work? Social media.
I would like to say they can't.
So when you're ready, you let us know.
It'll come to you whenever it's meant to.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We have come to the end of this episode. Please remember to leave a rating and a review. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @SelegorFilm, and the podcast also on Instagram and Twitter at the Naija Film Pod. See you on the next episode. Have a good one.